Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something genuinely fascinating. We're going to completely peel back the artistic layers of Paloma Faith's critically acclaimed music video, Picking Up the Pieces. If you've ever watched this piece and felt this strange, really compelling mix of glamour and dread all at once, well, you definitely aren't alone. Today, we're going to show you exactly how that feeling was deliberately constructed. We'll break down the specific visual and thematic choices that take this from your standard pop song and elevate it into a truly fascinating piece of media. Here's our quick roadmap for today's deconstruction. We'll be hitting 4 main points. 1. Genre and core themes. 2. Intertextuality and cinematic influences. 3. Media language and mood. And finally, 4. Representation and star image. Let's just jump right in. All right, starting off with Section 1, genre and core themes. So media scholars actually call Picking Up the Pieces a hybrid video. What does that mean? Well, it basically means it combines 2 very distinct elements, performance and narrative. Throughout the whole video, you'll see Paloma Faith performing directly to the camera. It's a classic music video trope, right? It's designed to communicate raw emotion directly to you, the viewer, while also serving to promote her as the artist. But she doesn't stop there. At the exact same time, she's acting out a very specific narrative, weaving this intense storyline of a relationship breaking down. It's this clever hybrid approach that really lets us connect with her as a singer while simultaneously getting totally lost in the cinematic story she's trying to tell. Now, the whole narrative is built on this massive, almost suffocating tension between control and chaos. It's incredible to watch. On one side, we see the devastating internal emotional chaos of heartbreak, and that is directly clashing with this intense external composure. That desperate effort to just hold yourself together in public. The video brilliantly plays with this tension. It constantly bounces between moments where her internal world is completely falling apart and moments where she's frantically trying to maintain an outward facade of total control. And flowing directly from that push and pull is the real heart of the text, emotional vulnerability and recovery. You see, the story isn't just about the dramatic climax of a breakup. It is firmly rooted in the raw, messy aftermath. It focuses so heavily on the exhausting process of dealing with heartbreak and the literal act of picking up the pieces to rebuild yourself. Moving right along to Section 2, Intertextuality and Cinematic Influences. This is where things get really cool. The video relies heavily on intertextuality, which is just a fancy way of saying it references other media texts to create its own meaning. It borrows a lot from old Hollywood films to set up this glamorous retro style, but then it suddenly introduces the strange, surreal dream logic of David Lynch's Twin Peaks. And to top the whole thing off, it actually incorporates unsettling imagery straight out of horror classics like The Shining. I mean, mixing old Hollywood with psychological horror, that is a massive, surprising departure for a pop music video, and it immediately signals to us that something much darker is happening beneath the surface. Let's peel back another layer. Section 3, Media Language and Mood. Let's zoom in on the mise-en-scene, so essentially everything we physically see within the camera's frame. The creators went totally cinematic here. You've got this grand hotel setting packed with different characters, which instantly gives the whole thing a film-like atmosphere. And notice the colors? That muted color palette creates a really reflective, somber mood that perfectly reinforces that core theme of emotional damage. Finally, the inclusion of that surreal, horror-like imagery we just talked about is actually used physically within the frame to represent her internal psychological struggle. And we absolutely have to talk about Paloma's performance itself, because it acts as its own kind of media language. It's this incredible clash where rigid positioning meets undeniable vulnerability. If you watch her closely, her facial expressions are just totally open, openly displaying profound sadness and vulnerability. But at the same time, her body language is incredibly rigid, and she delivers this highly confident, powerful vocal performance. That physical contradiction is 100% intentional. The vulnerability in her face shows us the pain, but that rigid, upright posture, that suggests deep resilience and strength. Which brings us to our final stop today, Section 4, Representation and Star Image. Far too often breakup narratives in music videos stereotype women as these completely powerless, passive victims. But Picking Up the Pieces actively flips the script on that expectation. Paloma is clearly devastated. She is definitely not hiding her pain, but she is absolutely not powerless. Her vulnerability is depicted as brutally honest, yet highly controlled. It's representing a version of femininity that is simultaneously deeply emotional and fiercely strong, completely rejecting that tired, weak victim trope. And all of these pieces seamlessly come together to construct her overall star image. Her public persona is purposefully built to be highly emotional, deeply theatrical, and completely distinctive. By intentionally using heavily stylized hair, dramatic makeup, and these gorgeous retro costumes, she crafts an image that stands out entirely. She's deliberately separating herself from the more naturalistic, understated pop artists of her time. When you see a Paloma Faith video, there's no confusion. You know exactly whose world you're stepping into. So, wrapping things up, I want to leave you with a question to really think about. How exactly does stylized theatrical media language transform a simple pop song into a distinctive piece of cinematic art? By mixing old Hollywood with psychological horror, by blending raw vulnerability with rigid physical strength, and by flat out refusing to play the passive victim, Paloma Faith didn't just give us a song to listen to, she gave us a text to study. It just goes to show the immense power of visual storytelling and intentional media design. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into the explainer today. Keep analyzing the media around you, and I'll catch you next time.